Hello and welcome to Gefet in the Daf. I'm Yael Shimoni, bringing to you together with Hadran and Yeshivat Drisha, learning in your Daf Yomi a bit of Iyun, learning Gemara, Rashi, Tosfot, and more Rishonim and Achronim. And today we're going to be learning about motherhood and fatherhood. And I want to warn you, a trigger warning, that the discussions that we'll have today are not very politically correct. And I don't think that if the Gemara or the Rishonim or the Achronim would be writing today, they would be phrasing themselves in the same manner. However, I think this is a very interesting discussion, seeing the difference between motherhood and fatherhood as it is brought forth in the Gemara, in the Rishonim, and in the Achronim. So bear with me and use this trigger warning, and we'll try to listen to what's written here and try to work with it, because I think we might use it for insights that we can also phrase in our own words today, Be'ezrat Hashem. Okay, so after this warning, let's begin. We're in Nazir Daf Memtet, and this daf begins from the Mishnah and Daf Mem Zayin that you learn on Shabbos. And the Mishnah says that Kohen Gadol veNazir en metamim lekorvehen, aval metamim lemet mitzvah. Okay, we have halacha in the Mishnah that both a Kohen Gadol and a Nazir are not metameh to any person, even if they're related on first degree. What is the meaning of this? Let's look at three psukim that we have in Vayikra and in Bamidbar. In a regular Kohen, it says in Vayikra, Parashat Emor, Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, Emor el HaKohanim bnei Aaron, ואמרת עליהם לנפש לא יטמא בעמיו, כי אם לשארו הקרוב אליו, לאמו ולאביו, ולבנו ולביתו ולאחיו, ולאחותו הבתולה הקרובה אליו, אשר לא הייתה לאיש, לא יטמא. Kohen Adiot, a regular Kohen, he cannot be tameh for matim. He won't touch a dead person and won't be in the same room as a dead person. And we know that Kohanim have Kohanim warning in Israel in the Batei Cholim, and they also stand in a specific place when in funerals. But if the person who's dead is one of their first related people, children, parents, brothers and sisters, then they are tameh and they can touch the deceased and be part of the funeral. That's in a regular Kohen. But a Kohen Gadol and a Nazir have a different rule. Kohen Gadol, it says further down in Perek Kaf Aleph in Vayikra, והכהן הגדול מאחיו אשר יוצק על ראשו שמן המשחה ומילא את ידו ללבוש את הבגדים, את ראשו לא יפרע, ובגדיו לא יפרום, על כל נפשות מת לא יבוא, לאביו ולאמו לא יטמא. אין נזיר, כל ימי הזירו לאדוני על נפש מת לא יבוא, לאביו ולאמו, לאחיו ולאחותו לא יטמא להם במותם, כי נזר אלוהיו על ראשו. And here we see a very important thing, that a Nazir is like a Kohen Gadol in many aspects when it comes to his Kedusha. And here in the Gemara it says that in some ways the Kohen Gadol is still a little higher from the Nazir because his Kedusha is Kedushat Olam and the Nazir is only Kedushat Sha'ah. But still, this phenomenon is very interesting when it comes to Nazirut, that a person, man or a woman or an Eved or a Ma, can create a Kedusha for themselves that is on the same level, almost like a Kohen Gadol. And you see this because they cannot be Tameh, not even to first degree relatives. The Gemara asks, why did the Torah write this rule in such a strange way? Why didn't the Torah say just a Kohen can be Tameh for his first degree relatives, lekovav, and if he's a Kohen Gadol, he can't be Tameh lekovav? Why did the Torah say aviv, imo, achoto, achiv, baneav? Why all these words? So here we have a machloket between Rabbi Ishmael and Rabbi Akiva. According to Rabbi Ishmael, le'aviv, that says in Daf Mem Chet, is just to say that you can't be tameh for aviv. Le'achiv is a way to say that you are tameh for a met mitzvah, and that's another thing that we learn in the Mishnah. That's true that Kohen Gadol and a Nazir cannot be tameh for their first degree relatives, but if they meet a met mitzvah, then they have to be mitami for a met mitzvah, because met mitzvah nobody else can be taking care of him, and then even Kohen Gadol and a Nazir are tameh to help a met mitzvah get to burial. So that's why we have aviv and achiv. Aviv is to say that you cannot be close to your father if you're a Kohen Gadol and a Nazir, and le'achiv means you're adding another word to say that you have to be tameh for a met mitzvah. Okay, what do we do with imo? What do we do with achoto? So achoto I'll put aside. That's a sugya that you'll see in Daf Memchet. Imo, that's a sugya that in Daf Memchet Amud Aleph, Rabbi gives an explanation, and he says, why do we have to say imo? Because in a Nazir, it is obvious that you're not allowed to be mitame for a dead person, but if somebody is alive and has a tuma, for example, tumat zava or tumat mitzvah, then you are mitame to him. And Rabbi says that you need the word imo to do a gzera shava between a Nazir and a Kohen Gadol, that also a Kohen Gadol can be mitame to his relatives if they're tame and they're alive. The only problem is tumat met, but not a tuma of a live person. So that's the shita of Rabbi Ishmael. According to Rabbi Ishmael, why do we need the word imo? To do a gzera shava and say that a Kohen Gadol and a Nazir can be mitame to people if they are still alive. However, in Daf Memtet, the Gemara says that Rabbi Akiva is cholek on Rabbi Ishmael, and he's not reading the psukim in the same way. We won't get into exactly each word that he's doing. You can see that in Daf Memchet Amud Bet. But in Daf Memtet Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, ולרבי עקיבא, מכדי לא שנה הכהן גדול לחודי, ולא שנה הכהן גדול והוא נזיר, נפקא מלאחיו, לאביו ולאמו למה לי? According to the Gemara, Rabbi Akiva does not need the word imo to learn this halacha that Rabbi used the word imo, because Rabbi Akiva learns the halacha that a Nazir can be mutame to live people from a different place in the pasuk. So the Gemara returns and asks on Rabbi Akiva, what does Rabbi Akiva do with the word imo? Says the Gemara, tzrichi, de'i katav aviv, hava minaynu te'ama delo mitam elei mishum dechazaka ve'alma hu, אבל אימו דיידין דיידתי ליטמי lehu. The Gemara says that if the Torah would write only that a Nazir and a Kohen Gadol cannot be metame to their father, we would still think that they will be metame to their mother. Why? Because their mother is closer to them than their father. Why? Because the father is only a father by chazaka, and the mother is a relative that you know she's related to. What does the Gemara mean? We'll see the Tosfot in a minute. Let's continue with the Gemara. If that's true, why say Aviv Imo? Only write Imo. Why write Aviv? Explains the Gemara. Ve'ikatav Rachmana Imo, hava amina Imo lo litamela. דלאו אזיל זרעה בתרה, אבל אביו, כיוון דאמר מר למשפחותינו בית אבותם, הם עליתם אלי כמשמען. Says the Gemara in a different way, the father is more related to the son. Why? Because the children of the son will be related to the father and not the mother. Why? You will learn this in Baba Batra, Mishpachat Av Kuya Mishpacha. The children are related to the father and are connected to his mishpacha according to the rules of halacha. And therefore, if the father is a Kohen, the son will be a Kohen, even if the mother is an Israelite, because you go according to the mishpacha of the father, and that's also regarding Yerusha. It is true that you go according to the mother when it comes to the question whether or not you're Jewish. So it's not that the mother has nothing to do with the children, and also about Levi. Her child will not be chayav and pinyotav, even if she married an Israelite. That is true. We will learn all of that Bezrat Hashem in Baba Batra. But still, the mishpacha of the Av has a stronger relevance to the children, the next generation, to the grandchildren, than the mishpacha of the end. So, on one hand, motherhood is stronger than fatherhood because the mother is a vadai and the father is just a chazaka, and we still need to understand what that means. On the other hand, fatherhood is stronger than motherhood because fatherhood connects to the next generation, to the grandchildren, and not motherhood. So the Gemara here, according to Rabbi Akiva, discusses the difference between fatherhood and motherhood. And we want to look more on this. So first, before we continue to Rishonim and Achronim, just want to show you that there is not only this makor, which is a makor Tana'i, that the Tanaim said about the difference of motherhood and fatherhood. We also have that written in the Safra. The Safra, which is a Midrash Tanaim on Vayikra, coming to discuss why does the Torah write that a Kohen has to be mitame, a Kohen, a regular Kohen, Kohen Adiot, has to be mitame to his mother and father? Why have the extra mother and father? Why not just say father or just mother? So the Safra says something very similar to what our Gemara said. Says the Safra, הואילו נאמר לאביו ולא נאמר לאמו, הייתי אומר מה אביו שהוא חזקה, הרי הוא מטמא לו, אמו ודאי אינו דין שיטמא לה. אילו כן הייתי אומר מה אביו שאינו מתחלל, אף אמו שאינה מתחללת, אמו שנתחללה מניין, תלמוד לומר ולאמו. So here the Safra is talking about a mother of a Kohen and a father of a Kohen. And again, the Safra says exactly like our Gemara in Rabbi Akiva, that a father is only a father in Chazaka, and a mother is his mother Vadai. And again, we want to understand why. Why does the Tanaim think that motherhood is a Vadai and fatherhood is just a Chazaka? So, Tosfot here on Daf Mem Tet Amud Aleph will help us. And the Tosfot is quoting a Gemara that we'll see in a moment, a Gemara in Chuli. Let's read the Tosfot. Umeshane de tzriche, says the Tosfot, להיכתב אביו ולא לאמו, הווה אמינא דווקא לאביו אינו מטמא משום קורבה, דאביו חזקה בעלמא הוא, it's even a stronger statement, חזקה בעלמא, משום דרוב בעילות אחר הבעל, אבל אמו דוודאי ילדתי, אמא דמטמא לה. Okay, so the Tosfot here added and explained why is fatherhood just a chazaka? Why is fatherhood just a chazaka? Rov bi'ilot achar habal. This is not pleasant to listen to, and as I said, I warned you in the beginning, but still I think it is interesting, so we'll do it cautiously. According to the Tosfot and the Gemara and Chulin that we'll read in a moment, when a child is born, you don't know that the man who's been claiming that he is his father is really his father. Why do we assume that he's his father? Because if you have a married couple, chances are that most of the sexual acts that were done between these two people because they're married. But it could be that there was intercourse with somebody else. You don't know. You don't know. So you're going to, according to Rav. And that's what says Rav Mari in Masechet Chulin Daf Yud Aleph. Rav Mari Amar. Rav Mari is answering the questions. How do we know that we are also killing people using Rov? That you will kill somebody according to the rules of Torah, even though it's not Vadai, it's only according to Rov. Says Rav Mari, Atya mi makeh aviv v'imo. Makeh aviv v'imo mot yumat. And it says in the Torah that you kill somebody if he hits his father. It says, Rav Mari, de'amar achman akatli, v'lichush dilma lav avivu. Somebody hits a person, a man, and the man says, I'm his father. So according to halacha, you believe that he's his father, and you kill him. Pizmaki aviv imo. Rav Mari asks, how could that be? You don't know 100% if he's his father. אלא עליו משום דמרינא הנזיל בת ערובה, ורוב בעילות אחר הבעל. So this is what Tosfot explained here, and he's actually saying that fatherhood is something that is always in question. You go according to statistic rule. Chances are, high chances that he's the father. You don't know 100%. But a mother, since you know that this child was born from her body, you know that for certain, there are no questions, that's a vada. Okay, so now we understand the first part of the Gemara. What is the difference between motherhood and fatherhood? Why is motherhood a vada and fatherhood is a safek? As I warned you, this is not so pleasant to hear, but it is also interesting. So let's continue to a question, which is called a famous question, a famous kushya, asked in Shud HaRashba. Rashba got a question from Rabbi Yitzchak HaTzorfati. Rabbi Yitzchak HaTzorfati asks a question that he was asked by the big gadol of Chachmei Provencia. What was the question? In case you bear with me, let's read it. הדגר סינן בתורת כהנים בפרשת אמור, יאמר לאמו ולא יאמר לאביו. מה תלמוד לומר לאביו, ומה אמו שהיא מתחללת הרי הוא מטמא לאביו שאינו מתחלל אינו דין שיטמא לו? אילו כן הייתי אומר, מה אמו בידו אף אביו בידו, אביו חזקה מניין, תלמוד לומר ולאביו. Okay, so here we have a quote, slightly different of the Safra that we read. So this is just a quotation of what we already know, that a father is a chazaka and a mother is a vadai. And therefore, you had to write that a kohen, hidyot, has to be metame not only to his mother, which is a vadai, but also to the father, which is a chazak. Asks the gadol in Provencia, kashya li, litama lei leaviv mima nafshach. What's the kushya? If you're a kohen and your father dies, you don't know 100% that he's your father. Says the gadol in Chavei Provencia, it doesn't matter. You have to be metamen to him any way you look at it. Mima nafshach. Why? I avivhu, shapir mitamelu. If this man is really your father, the Torah says, if you're a kohen idiot, you can be metamen to him. So that's why you have to be metamen to him. Ve'ilav, and if he's not your father, im ken mamzeru. If the person who's died now is not your father, that means that you're a mamzer, that you were born not from your father and mother, but from your mother and some other man. So then you're a mamzer, ve'eno muzhar la tum'ah. The Gadol in Provencia says that a kohen mamzer is not chayav to be nizhar min tum'ah. Why is that? Because you don't really know if he's a kohen or not. The safek kohen, so mamzer. So if this is true, mima nafshach, why do I have to write aviv bichlal? I know the rule that I need to be metame to this man anyway, because anyway I look at it, I'm going to have to be metame to him. Because if I am his son, the Torah says I have to be metame. And I'm not his son, I have to be metame because I'm not chayav to be shomer from Tumah. So this is a famous question. And the Rashba adds in his shoot another question regarding the learning in the Gemara. The Rashba asks, Ve'od kashin, מה הוא לדקדק כן גבי תומת כהנים ולא דקדקו כן גבי כיבוד אב ואם ומוראם וכלילתם והקראתם? The Rashba says, I have another question. This whole discussion that fatherhood is a chazaka and motherhood is a vada, we find it in the Gemara only regarding tum'ah, not regarding kibud avahim. If a father is a chazaka and a mother is a vada, we should have seen the same discussion in Kiddushin regarding who are the people that you have to be mechabed and to be yareh. It's written in the Torah, Ishimo v'aviv tirau v'et shabtotai shishmo kaved et avicha v'et imecha. And here the Torah also uses the word av. And when it comes to why did the Torah write av in kibud avaim and mora avaim, there's no word in the Gemara saying, oh, the reason that the Torah wrote av is because av is a chazaka, it's a safek. Nothing in the sugya. Why is this discussion only dealing with Nazir, Tu'ah, and also with killing people if they're hitting their parents? Why not do the same exact learning when you're reading about Kibud and Moa? So we have two kushiyot. The first famous kushiyah is the Mima Nafshach kushiyah. Any way you look at it, a kohen will have to be mitame to this man who claims to be his father, any way you look at it. And the second kushiyah that the Rashba asks, why is the Gemara talking about this only when it talks about killing if you're Makavi Vimo and Tumat Kohanim, but it's not talking about Kibud Umora. So the Rashba, for his two questions, has two different answers. Let's start from the answer to the second question. Why did the Gemara not discuss this when it's reading about Kibud Avayim and Mora Avayim? There also the Torah says Avivimo and Avivimo. So the Rashba says, what is the difference between Tuma and Kibud Avayim? על כן נראה לי לתומת כהנים שני, הואיל וחידש בה הכתוב וחייב אותם להיטמע לקרובים, הכתובים בפרשה. וכתיב לה היטמע מצווה, ואם לא רצה מטמאים אותו בעל כורחו. And that is the difference between Kibud Avayim and Mora Avayim. So the Rashba says, why didn't the Torah Shabbat discuss this regarding Aviv V'imo, Kibud Avayim, Mora Avayim? Because there, the tzibur will not pressure the kohen to be mechabed and to be Mora. They won't be able to do anything. But when it comes to Tuma, they will force this person to be metamen to his program. So that's the Rashba's answer to this question. And the Rashba also gives an answer to his first question. Why did the Gemara say this about Aviv? If any way you look at it, you're going to have to be chayav on Aviv. So here the Rashba says something interesting. And he says, listen, a father is always somebody that you don't know 100% if he's the father. Even if they're in a cell together, you don't know. And you never know what really happened. But a mother, you can have two situations. It's true that usually a mother is somebody who you know for 100% that she's your mother vadai. But sometimes you have a woman that comes from a different land with a child, and you don't really know. The people around don't really know if she's the true mother. The Rashba quotes the Gemara in Kiddushin Daf Pei. There, Rabbi Yochanan says that you kill on chazakot, and one of the examples there is an example that Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi brings from Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi Mishum bar kapara, מעשה באישה שבאת לירושלים, בתינוק מוקף לה על כתפה, והגדילו ובא עליה, והרום לבית דין בסקלום, לא מפני שבנה ודאי, אלא מפני שכרוך לחבריה. So here we see that sometimes you have a woman that she's a mother chazaka. You don't know. She's the one raising the child, and you assume that she's the mother, and that's enough to be killing her and the child if the child grows and is ba'alea. So the Rashba says, you see, if you say mother, you might have thought that we're talking about this mother, the mother who is not 100%. And that's why you had to say father and mother, because the mother usually is 100% and sometimes can be somebody who you're not sure that she's the mother, and a father you never know. So in order to make it very clear that even though in a mother you have sides that you do know and you don't, that's why you had to add the word father, because there you never know if he's the true father. And I'm reading the Rashba, ואימו נמי, אף על גב דאפשר לו בחזקה ולא בידוע, כיוון דאפשר לו בידוע, חמירה להיטמע לה, אפילו בחזקה, קל וחומר מאב, ואי אפשר לו לעולם בידוע, כן נראה לי. So, what did we see up till now? We saw the Gemara, we saw the Tosfot, we saw the Rashba, and the Rashba had two questions, and we saw the answers of the Rashba. But you should know that the questions the Rashba asked remain hanging in the air, and the Rashba himself is not sure that his answers are the good answers, and all kinds of answers were given. And I wanted to show you two answers that were given in the Achronim regarding the question of the Rashba. So a first answer from the Meromeh Sadeh answers the two questions at once. Why do we write about Aviv, even if you have to be Matame any way you look at it? And also, why is it only in Tuma and not regarding Kibud Avim? So says the Meromeh Sadeh, which is the Nazir, something very interesting. So I'm reading with you. Mishum dechazaka be'almo. הקושייה המפורסמת, ואם כן, לאו כהן גדול הוא. הקושייה הזו, איתה בתורת כהנים, רש פרשת אמור. הכתיב בכהן אדיוט לאביו ולאמו יטמא, הכתיב לאמו אבא אמינא דלאביו אינו יטמא, שאינו אלא חזקה, וקשה, אם כן אינו כהן. וכבר הובאה הקושייה הזו בשו"ת הרשב"א, ונראה משום דהרבה טליה במה שליבו של אדם עונן עליו. שהרי משום הכי, המת בתוך 30 ללידתו, אין כהן מטמא לו, אפילו לרבנן, דלא מוכחי מזה דחיישינן לנפל. מכל מקום אינו מטמא, משום דאין ליבו של אדם עונן עליו. והכי נמי, ליבו של אדם עונן על אמו יותר משעל אביו, שאינו אלא חזקה. אבל מהתורה, ודאי הוא אביו, מחמת שגדולה חזקה שממתין על זה ושפיר הוא כהן. So says the Meromeh Sadeh, you have to understand, Yael, that the whole discussion here, why is it only on Tuma? Because Tuma has to do with the sadness of the heart. What does that mean? The Meromeh Sadeh says, if you look in Hilchot Tuma, Tumat Met, you see that a Kohen is not metame for a nefel. What's a nefel? If you have a child that was born and he dies in the first month of his life, that's called a nefel. It's not a miscarriage. It's somebody who's already been born, but what was then was the first month of life was very uncertain. And many children died in the first month of their lives. And according to halacha, since the parents are not connected to the child yet, emotionally, in the first month of his life, because they don't know if he'll survive. So even if this child dies, the sadness of the heart is not as strong as if the child actually lived for more than a month, and we actually thought that he'll grow and be a grown person, then when he dies, the sadness of the heart is much worse. And then, and only then, will Kohen be metame to this child. So, says the Mohammed Sadeh, you see that the halachot of Tum'ah are not connected to the question whether or not a person is your son or not. The question is different. How sad are you regarding this specific person? And says the Mohammed Sadeh, halachically, your father is your father. It's a chazakah. We kill on this also. Of course he's your father. That's certain. Halachically, it's a certainty about fatherhood. But emotionally, a child is saddened more over the passing of his mother than over the passing of his father. And that is an emotional situation. And that's what the halacha is referring to when it's discussing who's vada and who's safek. They're talking about an emotional feeling that a child has towards the passing of their parents. And that is why here the Gemara says, you might have thought that you're not as sad over your father. That's what I might have thought. So that's why the Torah had to say, here, we don't check that, how sad you are. Even though you're sadder over your mother than your father, still you're chayav to be mitame to the father and the mother if you're a Kohen Gadol. And you're not allowed to be mitame to both of them if you're a Kohen Gadol. So the Mohammed Sadeh here talks about an emotional phenomenon, which, as I said before, I think, I don't know if it's really 100% true. Is it always the case that a child is more mournful over the passing of his mother than the passing of his father? I want to put this in a question mark, but still I want to look at what the Mohammed said and try to understand it. And I want to offer this explanation that when a child is born from a mother, he lives in her body for between 7 or 9 months, and there is a physical connection between the bodies that does not exist between a father and a child. And that is the difference between motherhood and fatherhood, that there's a different physical connection. What I'm talking about is not only if a mother is breastfeeding a child, because obviously that will create a connection, but even if no breastfeeding, just growing and living for the months of the beginning of life inside a different person's body will connect the two bodies together in a different way. And maybe that is something that will affect the soul, and you will have a different kind of sadness, physical sadness, even over your mother than your father. Again, this is trying to understand what the Mohammed Sadeh here is describing. I want to add another thought that the Grach is said to have said regarding the question, why did this whole discussion about that the father is a chazakah and the mother is a vadai is not discussed using halachot with kibud horim. And that was the second question that the Rashba asked. So here, the Grach is referring to a Gemara that we haven't learned yet in Masechet Kiddushin. Masechet Kiddushin, an interesting question is asked: what happens if both your mother and father at the same time want to have you bring them a glass of water? So a person asks that Rabbi Eliezer, and Rabbi Eliezer says, "Oh, you have to give your father first before your mother, because your mother is also chayav in the kavod of your father." And asks the Grach, "Why is that? If your mother and your father are up against each other, your mother is a vada, your father is a chazaka, you should have preferred the kibud orim of your mother, which is a vada, to the kibud orim of your father, which is a safek." And answers the Grach, and this is a story about the Grach. It's in the stencil. It's not 100%. He didn't say this in Shir. It's something that he said as a side thing, but I think it's very interesting. It says the Grach, והתירוץ, שכל עיקר כיבוד אבאים הוא לפייסם ולהוקירם ולגלות חשיבותם. לכן, מכבד את אמו יותר מאביו רק מחמת הטעם, אמו והוא ודאי מצווה והוא דילמה עליו אביו הוא, יגיד זה קלונה ופחותה, ולא יהיה זה לכבוד ולהדר, אלא להפך. Says the Grach, if you look at your mother and father and say, "Oh, my mother is vadai, my father is safek," that is not in the kavod of your mother to say that, because you're saying that you're a mamzer. That's not the kavod of anyone here. That's lekalon. So that's another thing to say, that this discussion about Vaday and Safek is not relevant bichlal when you're talking about Kibud Orim, any one of them. So that's why the Gemara never mentioned this question when it's learning about Kavod and Morah Horim. So I want to sum up what we saw, and again, we're dealing here with something that is definitely not politically correct. We would not write this in the same way, but it is looking at these two phenomena, fatherhood and motherhood, and trying to understand what is the difference between them. So the Gemara says that fatherhood is a chazaka, motherhood is a vadai. And on the other hand, it says that fatherhood is something that continues to the children, to the grandchildren, and motherhood is not. And as we mentioned, it is half true, because motherhood will definitely affect the children when it comes to choosing if they're Jews or not, for example. But we won't get into that right now. So first thing we said, Tosfot explains that this is not a chazaka, this is a rov bilot acharabal. And what it means that we don't really know for 100% that this person, even though he is married to this woman, is the father of the child. So this is an unpleasant thing to think about, but that's what the Gemara is stating, according to the Tosfot and the Gemara and Chuli. However, a woman that gives birth to a child, we know 100% this is her child, and that knowledge will never be known regarding fatherhood. The Rashba explains that knowledge on fatherhood will never be achieved. And motherhood, sometimes you have mothers that you don't really know if they're the true mothers, but most of the mothers you do know. So the difference is that motherhood, sometimes you will know, and fatherhood, you will never know. And the Biromesada said, no, we're not talking about this. We're talking about when a child is sadder, and a child will be sadder over the passing of his mother than the passing of his father. There's a different connection there, and his heart is more on it. And that's why the Gemara had to say that also his father, he has to be metame if he's a Kohen Ragil, and not metame if he's a Kohen Idiot. And we try to understand the Miromesada, and we gave an explanation that maybe we're talking about a physical connection that arises from pregnancy that will never occur in fatherhood and does occur in motherhood. And we finished with the Grach saying that this whole discussion is irrelevant if you're talking about Kibud Horim, because just raising this question when it comes to Kibud Horim Moralim is something that is exactly contradictory, because there's no covered in this question and statement regarding your appearance. So today really took our time to touch upon something which is delicate in the Gemara, but I think can be very interesting. And what we really tried to do today, something that happens a lot in Gemara, that sometimes the Gemara gives us insight in the Rishonim and Achronim, talk to us about things that might be not easy to understand or not written in a politically correct way. But still, I think this is interesting to look at motherhood and fatherhood and see that each side of it creates a different connection, maybe between children and their parents. And these are things that I think are enlightening and interesting, even though not easy for us today to listen to. So I hope you enjoyed this Gefet today, and I hope to meet you again next week. Take care and continue learning Nazir and enjoying it. Be'ezrat Hashem. Lehitraot.